Per Course in Miracles. Lesson 162. I am as God created me. This single thought held firmly in the mind would save the world. From time to time, we will repeat it as we reach another stage in learning. It will mean far more to you as you advance. These words are sacred, for they are the words God gave in answer to the world you made. By them it disappears, and all things seen within its misty clouds and vaporous illusions vanish as these words are spoken. For they come from God. There is a thought so radiant, so incorruptible, that the moment it enters your mind, everything false begins to dissolve without a fight. It doesn't argue with illusions, it renders them meaningless simply by being true. This thought is not a battle cry or a defense. It is the still voice that undoes the world by not believing in it. When held firmly, it becomes a mirror that reflects only light, and nothing that casts a shadow can remain. I am as God created me is not an affirmation. It is a spiritual fact that asks for nothing and proves everything. The pain, the story, the mask, the name, all of it falls away like fog in the rising sun, because only what God created has any power. This world, with all its misty meanings and vaporous forms, cannot stand in the face of a thought that did not come from it. And this one didn't. It came from God. That's why the dream fades. That's why the clouds part. That's why the illusions vanish, not because they were defeated, but because they were never real. To hold this thought in your mind is to remember what cannot be threatened. And to remember what cannot be threatened is to remember who you are. Here is the word by which the Son became his Father's happiness, his love, and his completion. Here creation is proclaimed and honored as it is. There is no dream these words will not dispel, no thought of sin and no illusion which the dream contains that will not fade away before their might. They are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. The dead awake in answer to its call, and those who live and hear this sound will never look on death. There is a reason this thought doesn't just inspire, but redefines everything. It is the sound of your original self breaking through the static. It is the recognition that you were never the wound, never the sinner, never the body left behind. It's what remains when the roles fall. Mother, felon, addict, star, none of them survive this fire. It's what calls the single mom, worn down from survival mode, into a moment of peace she didn't know was still inside her. It's what reaches the man sitting on the edge of a prison cot, wondering if he is anything more than the worst thing he's ever done. It's what brushes across the forehead of a child being told they're broken and whispers, "You were never touched." This thought is not fragile, not poetic fluff. It's the correction that waits beneath every identity built on guilt. It's what wakes you up in the middle of blaming someone and reminds you that the person you're fighting is wearing a mask you gave them. It dissolves the illusion that success makes you real, that failure defines you, that sickness punishes, or that time can take anything away. This is not theology, it's a homecoming. And when it enters your mind, even for a breath, every lie begins to lose its scaffolding. You forget how to maintain the character you thought you had to become. You stop needing your parents to be different for you to feel whole. You don't need the apology, or the money, or the recognition, because this thought is your inheritance and nothing else was ever yours. No story about being abandoned, betrayed, overlooked, or defeated can hold its shape when this is remembered. Because those stories were all drawn on fog, and this is the light that clears the window. This thought is the place where your Father's joy becomes your own. And in that joy, there is no sin to punish, no mistake to carry forward, no version of you to defend. Today we practice simply. For the words we use are mighty, and they need no thoughts beyond themselves to change the mind of him who uses them. So wholly is it changed that it is now the treasury in which God places all his gifts and all his love, to be distributed to all the world, increased in giving, kept complete because its sharing is unlimited. And thus you learn to think with God. 5. Christ's vision has restored your sight by salvaging your mind. Today we don't try to understand the world. We practice remembering something stronger than the world ever was. We practice simply, not because the truth is small, but because it's mighty enough not to need anything else. These words, I am as God created me, don't ask you to prove them, explain them, or decorate them with new beliefs. Like Mighty Mouse, they don't look like much, but they fly into your chaos with a cape and clarity and clear the room in one breath. They don't work by adding new thoughts. They work by clearing out the cobwebs of who you think you are. They don't fix the world. They replace the mind that thought the world needed fixing. These are not world-changing words, they are mind-changing words. And when the mind is changed, the whole world, war zones, courtrooms, kitchen tables, recovery meetings, shifts in response. You start noticing that the people who used to trigger you now reveal your unhealed places instead. You stop chasing apologies because you're pulling from something bigger than anyone could owe you. The mind that holds these words becomes a treasure chest, not full of gold, but of peace, gentleness, laughter, and stillness. And it's not hoarded. God doesn't deal in scarcity. He places all his gifts and all his love there. Nothing left out, no exception list, no secret clause. This is not a trickle. This is a waterfall that runs in both directions, received and shared without limit. To try and withhold this truth from one person, one family member, one politician, one betrayer, is to close the gate on your own house. You can't block a single one without blocking everyone, because truth doesn't compartmentalize. You are drinking from a bottomless mimosa glass of God's joy, and every sip you give away just keeps refilling itself. The only way to keep it is to keep pouring. And as you do, you begin to think with God, not because you've earned the right, but because you've remembered where thoughts come from. You are not just a child of God. You are a thought in the mind of God, and his thoughts don't expire. And then comes the image that flips the world. Christ's vision didn't give you better eyes, it salvaged your mind. Like a restorer pulling something priceless out of a junkyard, dusting it off, seeing past the dents and rot and saying, "This is still holy." The world told you that you were scrap metal, but Christ saw through the rust. He saw the original blueprint underneath the bruises. And when your mind was salvaged, your sight was restored, not just visually, but spiritually, relationally, eternally. You don't see with your eyes anymore. You see with the light behind them. And that, mighty companion, is how the mind gets returned to the one who never gave it away. We honor you today. Yours is the right to perfect holiness you now accept. With this acceptance is salvation brought to everyone. For who could cherish sin when holiness like this has blessed the world? Who could despair when perfect joy is yours, available to all as remedy for grief and misery, all sense of loss and for complete escape from sin and guilt? We honor you today, not for what you've accomplished, but for what you've accepted. You accepted something the world told you could never claim, your right to be perfectly whole. Perfect holiness doesn't mean religious piety, moral superiority, or a life with no mess. It means there is nothing in you that can be threatened, because nothing in you is missing. It means the courtroom in your mind is closed, the jury dismissed, the trial ended before it began. It looks like walking into a room without shrinking, without proving, without rehearsing who you need to be. It looks like showing up to a family dinner and not needing anyone to change so you can feel peace. It looks like no longer needing the apology, not because it wasn't painful, but because pain isn't your identity anymore. It's the moment you realize, I don't need to carry this anymore. I don't even need to be better. I need to be what I am. And when you accept that mighty companion, you bring salvation with you like a scent that stays in the room after you leave. You become the antidote, not because you fixed anyone, but because you stopped reinforcing the idea that they were broken. How can someone hold on to guilt when they stand in the presence of a mind that holds no guilt of its own? How can someone cherish sin when your very existence says, there is nothing to condemn? You don't preach at them. You don't need a podium. You just stop co-signing the lie that says anyone is too far gone. You become a living contradiction to despair. That's why this thought brings perfect joy. Because it doesn't need conditions to be met. It's not joy based on circumstances. It's joy that ends the belief in circumstances altogether. It's not, I'm okay because things are good. It's I'm unshaken because I've remembered I was never lost. Grief dissolves in this because grief is rooted in the belief that something real was taken. But holiness sees clearly, what is real cannot be lost, only misplaced in a fog that has already lifted. Misery falls away because misery requires a self that lacks, and you've remembered a self that cannot lack. And all sense of loss, emotional, financial, physical, relational, is healed not by reversal but by recognition. Recognition that what you are was never the thing that left. Recognition that what they are was never the thing that died. This is the escape hatch built into the dream. You step through it when you stop arguing with guilt and simply walk out of its jurisdiction. You don't fight sin. You outgrow the belief that it ever touched you. You don't escape guilt by proving innocence. You escape by remembering there was never a crime. That's what perfect holiness does. It doesn't ask for improvement. It invites remembrance. And once you accept it, the whole world starts to remember with you. And who would not be brother to you now, you his Redeemer and his Savior? Who could fail to welcome you into his heart with loving invitation, eager to unite with one like him in holiness? You are as God created you. These words dispel the night, and darkness is no more. The light is come today to bless the world. For you have recognized the Son of God, and in that recognition is the world's. To be someone's Redeemer doesn't mean you carry their cross. It means you stop seeing them as nailed to it. To be their Savior doesn't mean you rescue them from the world. It means you stop agreeing that they're guilty for it. You become the one who no longer sees them through the lens of history or rumor or ego or skin. You stop holding them to the lie they told, the role they played, or the mask they wore. You meet them not as their story, but as their source. You become the one who holds space so sacred they begin to remember who they were before they forgot. And when someone is held like that, not fixed, not corrected, not blamed, but simply recognized, they melt into it. That's what it means to unite in holiness. Not two perfect people linking arms on a mountaintop, but two weary souls remembering that perfection was never lost. Holiness isn't moral purity. It's the absence of attack. It's when the room no longer echoes with judgment. It's when the eyes you look through carry no need for defense. And in that silence, the invitation is felt. Even the hardest heart softens in the presence of someone who no longer believes in guilt. Even the ones you swore were too far gone. The liars, the cheaters, the betrayers, the presidents you judge. All of them become the Son of God when you stop blocking the recognition. And it isn't personal, it's spiritual. Because when you accept the Son in them, you're also accepting the Son in you. And in that moment, the world is restored, because your sight is no longer fractured. You're not seeing through a funhouse mirror anymore. You're seeing one Christ in every face. That's why the light comes into the room. Because the darkness was never real. It was just your belief in separation casting shadows. And now you believe in it no more. So darkness leaves, not because it was defeated, but because it was dismissed. That's what it means when the light comes to bless the world. It doesn't come from the sun. It comes from the mind that stopped believing in guilt. And when that light shines, the world shifts, not out there, but in here. Because you have recognized the Son of God, not just in Jesus, not just in saints, but in your mother, in your enemy, in the man who betrayed your trust, in the woman who abandoned her post, in the face you hated most until you saw through the veil. That is salvation. That is the end of the dream. And in that recognition, the world is born anew.